On one of the more recent episodes of Piers Morgan Uncensored, Trump and MAGA were brutally humiliated, not just by progressive commentator Brian Tyler Cohen, friend of the show, but also by one of Donald Trump's former top advisors, Anthony Scaramucci. And we have to talk about this because it's pretty damn epic. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to play here from one of the more recent Piers Morgan episodes. Actually, a continuation of a video we did a couple of days ago, but there was just so much great stuff in this episode, we need to dedicate a second video to it. So here's an exchange between Michael Knowles of the Daily Wire and Brian Tyler Cohen, friend of the show.
Much perfidy, so much deception. And I don't know, he was a complete political hack. And I think what's important to this conversation is, I don't think it was Merrick Garland's pristine moral standards that prevented him from releasing this. I think.
So they're referring to the Epstein files, and Michael Knowles is of the opinion that former Attorney General Merrick Garland under President Biden would have leaked anything scandalous or incriminating about Donald Trump. But that's not true, and Brian's about to make a really compelling case here.
Let me ask you a question.
Piers is right. One second, Brian. I think Piers is probably right that if the Democrats don't want to release the files, it's because the files don't look good for them either.
If you think Merrick Garland was a political hack, do you think Pam Bondi is a political hack, Michael?
I think Pam Bondi is doing a very good job as Attorney General.
Well,
I don't think she's a hack like Garland.
This woman has engaged in every political prosecution. Donald Trump literally sends his little edicts out into the ether on Truth Social. He posted what was supposed to be a DM to Pam, telling her what to do, and the second she read it, she snapped too.
I don't think
the notion that Pam Bondi is doing a very good job, but that Merrick Garland is a political hack. I wish Merrick Garland was more of a political hack.
I'll explain to you the distinction.
But the notion that Pam Bondi is just some figure, is some apolitical figure, is a joke.
No, here's the distinction. You're saying Pam Bondi has an allegiance to President Trump, or she's a conservative or something. Yeah, obviously, of course, she's the Attorney General under a Republican administration. I guess the difference is I don't think Pam Bondi is lying about the FBI going in and spying on the political enemies of the party in power.
Was Pam Bondi lying when she said the files were right on her desk and that they were going to be released? Was Pam Bondi lying when she said the files were going to be released on her desk?
Yeah, I think she was. I'm afraid. Let me jump in there. I think that what
she hadn't said it because
what she did that day was ludicrous, and is actually one of the reasons why the whole thing spiraled out of control. Because
love it. Again, remember, Piers Morgan grades Trump on a curve. He's friends with Trump. He holds Democrats to a higher standard with Trump. All stupid, all indefensible, and it clouds his otherwise pretty excellent reputation when he's at his best as a good journalist, right, when it comes to Trump. But even Piers is like, yeah, Michael, you're full of shit, okay? Pam Bondi did lie. She did lie. And even Michael Knowles had to sheepishly, well, I wish he wouldn't have said that. Well, why can't you call it a lie? And to compare Pam Bondi and Merrick Garland is absurd. So Merrick Garland, the documentation is clear. He actually tried to avoid prosecuting Donald Trump for both the classified documents case and anything to do with January 6th. There was a predicate there to launch a direct investigation into Trump, according to multiple professional federal prosecutors, the day that Merrick Garland became Attorney General. But Merrick Garland didn't do that. Instead, he actively worked against any effort to investigate Trump and said, no, we can't look like we're politicizing the Justice Department, even if the predicate is there. You guys got to do it in a more convoluted way. You got to start with the foot soldiers of January 6th first. And he delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed. Same thing with the classified documents case. Trump had no legal basis to retain those documents, especially when the national government, the federal government, demanded that they go back. And rather than, execute a search warrant immediately, they spent months and months and months behind the scenes, surreptitiously trying to persuade Trump to return the documents because they desperately did not want to prosecute him. On the other hand, as Brian points out, and you go with actually bigger examples, Donald Trump will publicly order Pam Bondi to prosecute his political opponents. Letitia James, James Comey, Adam Schiff, former National Security Advisor John Bolton, and 3 of the 4 are already being prosecuted. As a matter of fact, recently Trump publicly ordered Bondi to launch investigations into former President Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, and Larry Summers regarding the Epstein files. And Pam Bondi publicly responded and said, yes, sir, I've got somebody on it. Merrick Garland never did that. President Biden never ordered publicly or privately Merrick Garland to do anything. And Merrick Garland never corruptly or dishonestly engaged in political prosecution. So Pam Bondi is morally inferior to Merrick Garland, objectively so, and certainly far more of a political hack than Merrick Garland. And Michael knows this. He's a pretty good debater, but he was just fucked on the facts. That's why he tried to deflect. Well, I think she's like a good attorney general. And he smiles because he knows he's full of shit and he will always lose that debate. But we have some other clips as well.
My friends there. Hello, Michael. It was a pretty partisan comment there, Michael. Hello, Brian. Hank.
Anthony.
I mean, Michael, I love you. You think Pam Bondi is nonpartisan, but Merrick Garland was. I mean, come on, man.
I said she's not a hack like Garland.
Okay, all right. I'm just saying. Let's get.
This is Anthony Scaramucci, Donald Trump's former White House communications director.
Get the bubble back on the level, okay? Like when we're leveling the frame, the picture, we got to have the bubble in the middle. Pam
she's
Bondi,
a partisan, and she's part of the good party. So I agree.
Pam Bondi is a Trump family law firm member that happens to also be the Attorney General of the United States. So, I mean, we just got to be honest about it. But go ahead, Piers. It's your show. It's great to be back on.
It's great to, I don't want you suddenly commandeering.
So Scaramucci has a way with words, and again, he can do it with wit and credibility. But yeah, again, humiliating Michael Knowles, and Michael Knowles taking the L, and even Piers Morgan laughing at him. They all know that Pam Bondi is objectively more corrupt, more dishonest, and more partisan than Merrick Garland, and anyone who pretends otherwise will always lose because the facts say otherwise. Here's another clip.
Not just come from Democrats, but has actually come from within the MAGA base, who were enraged about this and wanted these files released and have been completely incredulous as to why suddenly they weren't being.
Well, I mean, there's a lot there, but I guess what I said last week on our podcast, his move is to say he wants full disclosure because that gives him coverage with his base. His base believes in him no matter what, and no matter what comes out of the disclosed files, Trump will have a defense that his base would believe. And so I was very surprised that he went in the direction that you're describing. And of course, on Sunday night, he went in the direction that I thought was the more accurate offensive direction for the president, because that's really his only move. I mean, he would have lost, and he would have showed a fissure in the MAGA base by that House vote going against him. So, but I will say this, and people could disagree with me on here that really like the president. He looks tired. He looks distracted, and he's obviously worried about something because you don't make the moves that he made, the ones that you're describing, if he's not worried about something. But he's going to get forced into this now, and I believe that they'll go back to Pam Bondi and say that there's an ongoing investigation, a result of which none of this stuff can be divulged at this moment. So I think.
So they're, of course, referring to the Epstein files. This, this episode was recorded on Monday. It was after Trump basically threw his hands up and said, okay, screw it. House Republicans, go ahead and vote to release the Epstein files. And I appreciate the fact that Scaramucci is on the level here. And he's like, Trump doesn't get any credit for that. That was not a 180 from Trump. Piers tried to make it that way. Like, wow, Trump has really done a 180 on this, and maybe we should applaud him. And we should also speculate as to the reasons why. Well, we shouldn't applaud him. And the reasons are pretty clear. He was going to lose that vote. The discharge petition succeeded despite Trump's best efforts to kill it. So he failed. He gets no credit. All the Democrats get all the credit, along with 4 Republicans: Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and Nancy Mace. And every other Republican, including Donald Trump and Mike Johnson, they get all the blame. They tried to stop this and they failed. So we should mock them and make fun of them because they're losers who failed. We should celebrate the Democrats, who are morally superior to the Republicans, for getting this done, and the 4 deeply flawed Republican politicians who briefly stood on principle to make this happen. They should also be applauded as well. That's why Trump rolled on this, is because what's the expression? You either get run over by a bunch of cars or you try to run out in front of them, in which case it's a parade. Well, that's what Trump effectively tried to do. And then, of course, there have been recent developments since then, which had not only made its way through the House, because dozens of other Republicans had told Trump, if this makes it to the floor, I've got to vote for it, whether you like it or not. We tried to help you kill it. We failed. If this gets out in broad daylight and there's a vote where we have to go on the record, we will vote for this. So Trump said what he said. And then it was a unanimous, actually not unanimous. 1 Republican, Clay Higgins, voted against it. It passed the House. It made its way by unanimous consent right through the Senate, which surprised so many people, myself included. The Senate basically said, you don't even need to bring it here. It's just, we're going to rubber stamp. As soon as you give it to us, we're going to turn and give it to Trump to sign into law. As of this moment, Trump has not signed it into law. It's possible he'll sign it. It's possible he'll veto it. It's possible he'll do what's called a pocket veto, in which you just sit on it and hope it goes away. All of that is eminently possible. But the fact of the matter is, if Trump really wanted to release the Epstein files, he'd just snap his fingers and order Bondi to do it. Scaramucci's right. They will appeal to all sorts of, even if he signs into law, they'll turn around and try to delay and obfuscate. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene acknowledged that this is not the end. Speaking of Marjorie Taylor Greene, her about face has come up during this panel, and they all weigh in on Marjorie Taylor Greene's redemption arc.
As all the other corporate Democrats and Republicans.
Okay, Brandon, what do you think of that? Because I do think there's some merit to this. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene has been going out there and talking in a way I've never heard her talk before, and it's definitely resonating with people. I see a lot of people in the MAGA movement who actually agree with her. A lot of people don't, but I don't think Trump calling her a traitor is necessarily going to work in the way he hopes.
Well, I disagree on that. If you look at Marjorie Taylor Greene, she switched. She didn't. It's not that she continued in the MAGA way. She continued with America First conservatism. She's completely switched. She was just on television saying that Donald Trump shouldn't deport all these people at one time because it hurt the people who are working on her at her company. You know, Marjorie Taylor Greene has changed her position on so many different things. She just apologized on CNN and said.
So Officer Tatum's really stupid here. No, Marjorie Taylor Greene is actually staying true to the extent that America First has any principles, any stated principles. I would argue she's much more faithful to them than Trump. Trump, for example, walked back on H-1B visas. Marjorie Taylor Greene is not. So that's where Marjorie Taylor Greene is more principled to America First than Trump. Marjorie Taylor Greene opposes any and all foreign intervention, including a $40 billion payout and life raft issued to Argentina simply because Trump likes the Argentinian president, Milei. So Marjorie Taylor Greene is more consistent on America First foreign policy than Trump. Officer Tatum is part of a cult. And Trump said this. He goes, MAGA is whatever I say it is. And practically speaking, that's true because it's a cult of personality. But if we're talking about the principles that MAGA claims and purports to stand for, then no, Marjorie Taylor Greene has been much more faithful than Officer Tatum or Donald Trump himself, for that matter. Second thing is, he's complaining about her apology. Well, she apologized for participating in toxic rhetoric, and MAGA's rhetoric has been infinitely and more consistently toxic and abusive than the Democratic Party's. Like, it's not even close. And she's saying, it's now being directed at me, and I don't like it, and I was wrong to have contributed to it, which is good. And she should continue to be pressed to deliver that apology on a consistent basis because she helped pollute the body politic. Donald Trump is, again, objectively worse, but Marjorie Taylor Greene is a good runner-up. Here's another clip, the last clip on this topic.
Do I think it's coming from a place of true honesty? Probably not. I think that she sees that there's that it's politically advantageous for her to be able to say this. I think she feels burned because, you know, clearly she wanted to run for U.S. Senate in Georgia, and instead, you know, one of the good old boys, Buddy Carter, was anointed by Donald Trump. So I think she's on a bit of a rampage here. But on the other point, I mean, look, the fact that she's resonating so much is a testament to the fact that there is a recognition in Trump's base or on the right more broadly that, you know, all of the things that Trump promised are not coming to fruition. This guy ran for office as some populist champion. He promised lower rent, lower housing, lower groceries, lower eggs. He promised free IVF, ending the Ukraine-Russia war on day one. He promised lower costs. Look what he's done since he's actually been in office. Costs on everything have surged because of this misguided trade war that everybody said was going to raise the cost of everything. He has not done anything for IVF, not done anything for the Russia-Ukraine war. And where is his focus? It's on building himself a $350 million ballroom. It's on encrusting the Oval Office in gold. It's on retrofitting a Qatari jet to the tune of $1 billion. It's on buying Kristi Noem a couple of Gulfstream jets that cost $170 million. It's on hosting great Gatsby parties. It's so obvious where this guy's priorities are.
And again, that's friend of the show, Brian Tyler Cohen, making a very compelling case that Trump has abandoned his America First principles to the extent he ever had any, abandoned MAGA's principles to the extent that they ever had any, and he's simply a malignant narcissist who views MAGA just kind of like I do, as an authoritarian cult of personality. So Donald Trump and I ultimately agree that MAGA has no principles, and it's ultimately what Trump says MAGA is. That's what MAGA is, and Officer Tatum apparently lives up to that, and I think Michael Knowles does as well to a lesser extent. But there you have it. That's, again, from one of the more recent episodes of Piers Morgan Uncensored, where former Trump advisor Anthony Scaramucci joins forces with Cenk Uygur and Brian Tyler Cohen to humiliate Michael Knowles and Officer Tatum, and even Piers Morgan is forced to concede that, this isn't good for Trump. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.